Society tells you that you need to be a millionaire to feel financially free, but here's what they don't tell you. The true psychological shift, the moment your brain fundamentally changes its relationship with money, happens at your first $10,000. Not $100,000, not $1,000,000, $10,000. And if you don't have it right now, your brain is operating in survival mode every single day. Let me explain something that financial gurus won't tell you because they're too busy selling you courses on how to become a millionaire. You don't have a money problem, you have a brain problem. And until you hit that first $10,000, your brain is fighting against you. Here's what's happening right now if you have less than $10,000 in the bank. Your brain is in constant fight or flight survival mode. Think about it. When was the last time you got an unexpected bill, a car repair, a medical expense, your kid needed something for school and you didn't panic? When was the last time you checked your bank account and felt calm? You can't, because without a financial buffer, every unexpected expense feels like an existential threat. Your check engine light comes on? Panic. Your tooth starts hurting? Panic. Your boss seems annoyed? Panic, because you need that paycheck. And here's where it gets worse. When you're in panic mode, you make terrible financial decisions. You can't think strategically when your brain thinks you're being chased by a lion. So what do? You reach for the credit card. You take out a payday loan. You finance that emergency on payments. And boom, you just fell into what I call the payment trap. Now you don't just have the original problem. You have the original problem plus interest plus a monthly payment that eats into your already thin margin. You wanted financial freedom. Instead, you just made the cage smaller. This is the mental prison that most people live in their entire lives. And the only way out, hit that first $10,000. So let's talk about why getting there is so brutally hard and why most people never make it. If you're trying to save your first $10,000 right now, I want to validate something. This is the hardest money you will ever save in your entire life, period. I call this the suck phase, and there's a reason 78% of Americans never escape it. Here's why it's so brutal. Reason number 1, you're fighting against everyday expenses with no margin. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every dollar you try to save feels like it's being ripped from your survival budget. You try to save $500 this month? Cool. Then your tire blows out. Back to zero. You save $1,000 over 3 months? Awesome. Then your kid gets sick and you have an $800 medical bill. Back to square one. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. You're not losing because you're bad with money. You're losing because the game is rigged against you. Reason number 2, you're fighting against inflation and a consumer-driven society designed to keep you broke. Every single day, you are being bombarded with messages telling you to spend. Buy this car, upgrade your phone, get these shoes, treat yourself, you deserve it. The entire economy is designed to extract money from your pocket as efficiently as possible. And when you're tired, when you're burnt out from grinding in the suck phase, you become vulnerable. Which brings me to the most dangerous trap of all, the dangerous illusion of being rich. Here's what happens. You're 6 months into trying to save your first $10K. You've got maybe $3,000 in the bank. You're exhausted. You're sacrificing. You're saying no to everything. And then you see someone on Instagram with the watch, the car, the vacation, and your brain says, what's the point? I'm working my ass off and I'm still broke. I might as well look successful. So you make an ego purchase. You finance a $50,000 truck you can't afford because it makes you feel rich. You buy the designer bag, the luxury watch, the vacation you put on a credit card. And here's the tragedy. That purchase just reset your entire journey back to zero. Worse, it put you in debt. Now you're not at zero, you're at negative. You wanted to feel rich for a weekend. Instead, you just added years to your journey to financial freedom. This is why most people never hit $10,000, not because they don't make enough money, but because they get fatigued, they make emotional purchases, and they reset their progress over and over. Reason number 3, the math is demoralizing. Let's say you're saving $500 a month. Do you know how long it takes to hit 10,000? 20 months, almost 2 years. 2 years of saying no, 2 years of grinding, 2 years of sacrifice. And in month 18, when your water heater breaks and you have to drain $1,200 from your savings, you just added another 3 months to your timeline. The finish line keeps moving, and your brain, it starts to give up. But here's what I need you to understand. This phase doesn't last forever. If you can just survive the suck phase, if you can just get to that first $10,000, everything changes. Your brain changes, your habits change, your entire relationship with money transforms. So let's talk about what happens when you finally break through. The moment you hit $10,000 in your bank account, something miraculous happens in your brain. You stop operating out of fear, and you start operating out of strategy. Let me paint you a picture of what this feels like. Before $10,000, your check engine light comes on, your heart rate spikes, you feel sick to your stomach. You start mentally calculating, can I ignore this? Can I drive it for another month? Do I put this on a credit card? You're panicking, you're in survival mode. After $10,000, your check engine light comes on. You're annoyed, sure, but you're not panicking. You take it to the mechanic, it's $900. You pay it. Your account drops from $10,000 to $9,100. And here's the key, you're still okay. You didn't have to panic. You didn't have to borrow. You didn't have to beg. You just handled it. For the first time in your adult life, you can stop the panic. And when you stop panicking, you start thinking clearly. You start asking better questions. How do I make sure this doesn't happen again? Should I set aside a car maintenance fund? Can I negotiate a better price on this repair? These are strategic questions. These are wealth-building questions. But you cannot think these thoughts when you're in survival mode. Your brain literally doesn't have access to those neural pathways when it thinks you're in danger. The $10,000 buffer gives you something priceless, mental clarity. But it gets even better. Let's talk about what this does to your career. FU power at your 9 to 5. When you have less than $10,000, you are terrified of your job. Your boss is a jerk, you take it, because you need that paycheck. You're being underpaid, you stay quiet, because you can't risk losing this income. You see a better opportunity, you're too scared to take the risk. You don't have options, you have desperation. But the moment you hit $10,000, everything shifts. You're not desperate anymore. You have a buffer. You have options. Suddenly, you can negotiate. You can set boundaries. You can take a calculated risk on a better job because you're not one missed paycheck away from disaster. You're not walking around with the energy of someone who's terrified. You're walking around with the energy of someone who has options. And here's the crazy part. People can feel that energy. Your boss treats you better, opportunities start appearing, you get promoted, not because you suddenly got better at your job, but because you stopped operating from a place of fear. I've seen this happen over and over again. The person who hits $10,000 in savings suddenly gets a raise 6 months later, not because of coincidence, but because they showed up differently. They weren't desperate, they were strategic. The $10,000 milestone doesn't just change your bank account, it changes your psychology, and that psychology changes everything. But here's where it gets really exciting, because once you hit that first $10,000, the game completely changes. Here's the secret nobody tells you about wealth building. The first $10,000 is brutal, but the second $10,000, it takes half the time. Wait, what? How is that possible? Let me show you the hidden math behind what I call the snowball effect. Factor number 1, your habits have fundamentally changed. To hit your first $10,000, you had to develop discipline. You had to learn to say no. You had to build systems. Those habits don't disappear once you hit the milestone. They're now part of who you are. You're not starting from scratch anymore. You're not the person who impulse buys. You're not the person who finances everything. You've leveled up. Factor number 2, your debt is likely managed or eliminated. Most people grinding to their first $10,000 are simultaneously paying off debt, credit cards, car loans, student loans. By the time you hit $10,000, you've likely cleared at least some of that debt, which means the money that was going to debt payments, that's now going straight to savings. If you were paying $300 a month on a credit card and you finally pay it off, that's an instant $300 raise without changing your income. Factor number 3, compound interest finally has a base to work from. Here's where the math gets beautiful. Let's say you put that $10,000 in a high-yield savings account earning 4.5% interest. That's $450 a year, or about $37.50 a month. Now, $37 doesn't sound like much, but here's the thing. You didn't have to work for it. Your money is starting to make money. And if you keep adding to it, if you keep saving that $500 per month, month 1, you add $500. Your account is now $10,500. Month 2, you earn interest on $10,500 and add another $500. You're at $11,000 plus. Month 3, you earn interest on $11,000 and add another $500. The snowball is rolling. By month 10, you've hit $20,000. The second $10,000 took half the time of the first. Factor number 4, your income likely increased. Remember that FU power we talked about? Remember that confidence? By the time you hit your first $10,000, you've probably negotiated a raise, switched to a better paying job, started a side hustle, stopped taking crap from people. All of that translates to more income, which accelerates your savings even faster. This is the snowball effect, and once it activates, wealth building becomes exponentially easier. The first $10,000 is climbing a mountain in a blizzard with no gear. The second $10,000 is hiking down the other side with the wind at your back. But here's the catch. You have to survive the climb to get to the glide. Most people quit at $2,000 or $5,000. They get tired, they make an ego purchase, they reset, and they never experience the snowball. Don't be that person. So let's talk about exactly how you get there. All right, let's get tactical. How do you actually hit that first $10,000? It all comes down to one concept: mind the gap. Not the gap on the subway platform, the gap between your income and your expenses. Wealth is built in the gap. The wider the gap, the faster you build wealth. Most people have no gap. Their expenses match or exceed their income. That's why they're stuck. So your only job is to widen that gap. And you can do that in 2 ways. Option 1, increase your income. Option 2, decrease your expenses. Ideally, you do both. But here's where most people screw up. They focus on the wrong things. They clip coupons, they skip their morning coffee, they torture themselves over $3 purchases. Stop being cheap, start being strategic. Clipping coupons might save you $20 a month. Cool, that's $240 a year. You know what saves you $400 a month? Negotiating your rent, getting a roommate, moving to a cheaper apartment. That's $4,800, 20 times more effective. You know what else saves you $400 a month? Selling that $50,000 truck you're financing and buying an $8,000 used car in cash. Cut the big expenses, not the small pleasures. And on the income side, stop waiting for your boss to give you a raise. Negotiate your salary. Most people never even ask. Switch jobs. Job hoppers earn 50% more over their careers. Start a side hustle. Drive for Uber, freelance, sell something online. Learn a high-income skill, coding, sales, marketing. If you increase your income by $500 a month and decrease your expenses by $500 a month, you just created a $1,000 gap. At $1,000 per month, you hit $10,000 in 10 months. 10 months, less than a year. That's the game. That's the whole game. Mind the gap, survive the suck phase, hit $10,000. And then, everything changes. Your brain changes, your confidence changes, your opportunities change. You stop panicking. You start strategizing. You activate the snowball effect. The second 10,000 comes faster, then the third, then the fourth. Before you know it, you're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. You're building real wealth. You're changing your psychology. You're escaping the trap. So hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is for people who are done being broke, done being anxious, done living in survival mode. We're building real wealth. We're changing our psychology. We're escaping the trap. So subscribe, join us. Let's hit that first $10,000 together. I'll see you in the next one.